everyone here at Home Coach really does appreciate your business on it, and I know we're trying to speed through and get some stuff ourselves on it to get this up and running and offered out to you guys, but we do appreciate your business on it. And sometimes we might fall a little short, in which case we want you guys to get that feedback to us to help us improve on it. We're not where you're sitting, and so we want to know how to make it better for the next group, and not just the next group, but also you next year and the following years. Like I said, very first thing is we're trying to advocate this being a permanent medium out there. So cool. So let's move forward, guys. Thanks, Tim, for bringing that up. All right. So we're talking about material facts. On your screen, we talked about zoning changes. This is back, well, if we go back here, facts about the property, structural defects, malfunction, leaking roof. These are kind of issues about that. The zoning changes, restrictive covenants, widening streets. I already covered all that as far as the relating to the property. Also on this, affecting the principals, we kind of talked about the buyer's loan, their need to sell a current home if they have it. Which, you know what, I want to stop on that. Buyers need to sell a current home. And I know in our market is that there's a tendency to be like, look, if we put on there we got to sell a home, that seller ain't going to like it. And you're probably right. They might not like it. But the fact is, if you know that they've got to sell a home, you've got to tell someone they have to sell a home. You can't keep that under your chest on that. Tim?
No, but that's not the same as a contingency addendum, right?
Which we don't, right.
To be made there.
Right, which we no longer are having and employing. So perfect, yes. All right, now, facts that are known to be special importance. We talked about specific zoning stuff, HOA, city limits. Oh, you know, this is an interesting one now too, this presence of allergens on it. And you know, that it just leads me into thinking about things like noise ordinances, noise. And these are some things when I say facts that are known to be of special importance to the party. You might not think of something, and we had some of these case studies in last year's GENUP. You might not think that it's important. It just might be because you live in the area and you're like, you know what, we live with that chicken plant, and I don't know, smell it all. And then all of a sudden, you know, you're showing a buyer and they put an offer on the house, and now the winds change and now they smell it, and you're like, oh my gosh, you know, I can't live in this under this. Well, those are some of the things that I'm talking about that you got to think about. Why I even said zoom out, you know, in Google Earth or whatever you want to use. Try and see what is around that particular area. People ask me all the time, well, Steve, how do you stay on top of all this information out there? Well, guys, I know at least in Raleigh, in the Raleigh area, all the Wake County, let's just say Wake County, all those municipalities have Twitter accounts. And you're like, oh, Steve, I don't do Twitter. You don't have to do Twitter. What you got to do is be able just to get the information from them. And so I get all that stuff fed from them, from DOT, from the legislative stuff. I get it all fed. I have Google, what's it called, Tim? When you set up, what the, say it again? Alerts, yeah, thanks. Google Alerts. You know, stop laughing at me. So the Google Alerts, on there of just real estate in North Carolina, real estate in Raleigh, right? So every morning, I'm just telling you what I do. I look at those, I scroll through, see if there's anything important on it. Some things I'll pick out and post up on the Facebook page, but I'm just reading to kind of see if there's anything that stands out that might be with my business on it. So, all right, then let's go additional facts to the principal. Okay. Oh, and where do we disclose these material facts if you're on MLS? Tim, what do you think? Where do we disclose them?
General remarks.
General remarks. That's right, guys. Some of you might have thought, well, just put it in the agent remarks. And again, I don't know every MLS out there, but in the Raleigh area, we've got general remarks, and then we've got agent remarks. You know, things that you want to have just out for the agent. But on the general remarks, material facts. And Tim, why? Just remind everybody, why do we need to put it in general remarks?
That would be because the stuff that's in MLS, that's in general remarks, is going to go out to through the syndication loops. and make it out onto the interweb.
Right, that's exactly right, Tim. It's going to get syndicated, going out to the various websites. You know what, while we're on that, Tim, while we're on that, how many websites are there? How many websites, y'all, does it all go out to? I'm going to say, send Tim a note. I want to know from you guys, and it could be varying, how many websites do you think, when you put a listing into your MLS, it goes out to? Just send Tim. Yeah, was it 100, thousands, millions? Well, trillions is the new number now. So, send out however many you all think it should be, that you think it goes. Meaning, if a client said, if a seller said to you, hey Tim, how many websites is it going to send out to? You're going to say, fill in the blank. And that's what I want you guys to send to Tim. Send to Tim whatever number you kind of think.
We're all over the map. We got folks.
All right, what do we got on the low end?
Let's see. 100.
100, okay.
And no, 5.
5. You got 5.
Yeah.
You and your family are going to post the websites. We got it.
Price is Right person, just in case.
Yes, right. Going low end.
She's going low end to be sure.
So,
between 5 and 100, she's got it covered.
And where do we got on the high end?
We got millions as the top.
Millions,
Yes.
millions. All right, millions. That's fun. 6 more zeros, and we got trillions, guys. Trillions on that. So we got from 5 to 1 million. All right, good range on it. You might be smart going on the low end. I don't know about going up on the high end on it. So here's the thing. You have to know approximately how many it's actually going to go to, and you have to know which websites it's going out to. For instance, does it go out to Zillow? Does it go out to Zillow? Just thumbs up from everyone who says it goes out to Zillow. Thumbs down if you know it doesn't go out to Zillow. I'm getting a little punchy, a little more active now. What do we got, Tim? Lots of people going?
Looks like majority are yes.
Majority. Well, okay. So here's the thing. Back, several years ago when the MLSs across the state were like, the Zestimator. Y'all familiar with the Zestimator, right? Everyone going and saying the seller's not coming to like, I know you said my house worth $250,000, but the Zestimator said it's worth $6.2 million. That's what I want to list it at. And so the Zestimator, and some of the other issues with Zillow, right? They keep houses on active when they've actually closed, all those kinds of things. And so MLSs across the country said, you know what, we're not having Zillow. I'm going to tell you, just in the Raleigh area, you are not. Our MLS has said no homes are going to automatically go to Zillow. Again, you got to check with your own MLSs. You all know this, but your own MLSs, you got to find out. But so we said no. So in order for it to be on Zillow here in the Raleigh area, I, as a BIC, had to actually sign like a 26-page document saying I'm not going to hold our MLS responsible for any of the misinformation that's out there. And then that was allowing my agents to populate it up automatically to Zillow. Now you could go ahead and enter it in yourselves, but that's only if your company allows you to do that, right? Your company has to authorize you to be able to go and advertise on those. Now, how does that work? This is actually an important function, guys, because if you say 1 million and it's not, and it's like 5 or 100, you have now misrepresented to your client. You have willfully misrepresented. And you can imagine, just think about it, when we're talking about 300% increase in complaints, if someone thinks that is supposed to be on Zillow and it ends up not being on Zillow, you got a problem. Right? They're going to be like, hey, why is it on Zillow? Why is it on Realtor.com? Why is it on Pets.com? Whatever it is. You have to know that. How do you know this? How do you find this out? Well, let me, again, in Raleigh, everyone might be a little bit different. You have Tim mentioned about syndication or IDX stuff. Okay, IDX. All right. So what happens? Here you have MLS. Well, let's see. Hold on. I don't know. Is the camera able to pick? Okay. So you got MLS. MLS is down here. This is where you populate and you send in your listings, right? So everyone's sending in listings into MLS. How does it get fed up to the World Wide Web up in here? How do we get it up in there? Well, there's going to be some medium, some wholesaler that's in here. For us here, it's called List Hub. Okay? List Hub. Now, this is what's really important for you guys, is your BICs. Your BICs. Each office's BIC. Some firms have multiple offices, and so they just have one company policy for this for all the BICs, but each BIC gets to decide which of all these different vendors they're going to allow their listings to go to. Okay? So, and how many does List Hub here in the Raleigh area manage? How many they kind of oversee? And it fluctuates a little bit each month. I get a list every time our MLS adds someone or subtracts someone from a potential list of who it'll get syndicated to. I get it, and I have to decide whether I want to have them as a provider of our listings or not. So Tim, roughly, do you remember, Tim? Roughly, rough estimates. What's the number that we're looking at the List Hub services?
About 100.
Exactly. Approximately 100. That's it, y'all. 100. This is in Raleigh. 100. Zillow is not one of those, unless your firm specifically said, which means you got to find out if your firm allows it. This is really important for you, because out of that 100, you're like, well, Steve, I thought it was 1,000. It was 1,000,000, Steve. It was 1,000,000 people, right? Well, out of this mark here in the Raleigh area, this then gets, so this is what it goes up to List Hub. List Hub's got 100. Check them off. Home Coach has, well, we checked off, we got about 94. 94 out of the 100 is kind of what we have. And there's a few that we don't, you know, those fringe ones, chumpers out there, we end up not sending it out to. But out of here, out of this 100 though, it goes out, and you're responsible for knowing that 100. You need to know Realtor.com, Homes.com, whatever it is, Trulia, those 100 you need to know, and it can change on a monthly basis. So you should be getting updates on it. It might just remain the same, but every month I would check and say, does it remain the same? Okay? Is there a song like that? There's a song like that. So 100. But out of that, they then, like say Realtor.com, they then syndicate that out, and they might have another 10 that they send out to. And each one of these can then, they have their own participants that they can send it out to. This number in the Raleigh area is approximately 1,000. So the number that you can say in our area would be like, it's going to go out to approximately 1,000. You should know this process so you can explain it to them. I'm not saying you explain what I'm doing, whatever. What you got to know is, out of this 100, if someone says, is my home going to be on, and you say yes, it better be yes. Otherwise, guys, it's willful misrepresentation. Thanks for bringing that IDX stuff up, Tim.
And this is something that if you're a listing agreement that you're inking with somebody and going through the process, this is probably something to cover when you're working that out.
Yes. And in fact, listing agent, at least here with List Hub, you got a free account with List Hub, and you can pull this information. They also have some marketing materials that you can use, logos of these different companies you can put on, you know, on your mediums on how you want to advertise it as well. Questions on this? Questions on this? I'm getting ready to wipe down this board. If you have any questions regarding this syndication, please send them to Tim right now.
I did get a couple of bits of feedback. It's got a little sheen on that whiteboard.
Oh, okay, okay.
Not sure
I'll try and see what I can do.
Probably will want to incorporate a couple of the slides. That'll show a little better than
Okay.
up on the whiteboard.
Good. Any questions? Do we have anyone? No. Everyone's pretty good. Everyone's still awake?
Definitely get engaged with it. Nothing
Okay.
specifically on that.
All right, let's perfect, guys. Good. Let's move on. At the bottom of page 29, it talks about what's not a material fact. Not a material fact. The first one talks about death. Death party. People ask, well, if someone's murdered in there. No, death means death. Death. Someone died on the property. Doesn't have to be. I'm going to give you an example. One of our top agents in the area in here, she comes in with her team all the time. I was working a deal. I was representing a buyer on this property. Y'all not going to believe. So working it, I've got a buyer. They just bought a new home. It's their new home. They got a little baby girl with them, and they're getting ready. And they're outside. We had just closed on the property, and we walk up, and it's an old family's been here in Raleigh for a long period of time, and so a bunch of family out on the lawn, the grass, and we're all talking and everything. And off to my right, I see someone coming across the lawn. It's the neighbor coming across the lawn, walking across. And I'm thinking, what am I thinking, Tim? I'm getting my business card out, right? I'm being like, it's going to be another sale, right? And so I'm getting ready, and then she just comes up to me and goes, "Are you the new owners?" And I said, "Nope, I'm not the new owners, but let me introduce you." So I introduced them to the new owners, the young couple. And out of her mouth, she goes, "You're the new owners?" And they go, "Yes." "Are you a neighbor?" She goes, "Yes, I just wanted to let you know that the neighbor's son who sold the house hung himself in the garage." And then she walked off. What in the are you thinking? And my clients are like, y'all, that's the time I'm glad I wasn't carrying that day, y'all, because I'm telling you right now, that made everybody, they're like, what is going on? The wife is crying. She's like, what? I don't want to live in a house where someone died and killed himself and everything. Well, sure enough, that's what happened. So he hung himself about 2 months ago in there, and had no idea. I called up the agent and said, did you know what happened here? She's like, yeah, I knew what happened. And my point being, Tim, did she have to tell me?
She did not have to tell you.
She didn't have to tell. In fact, she did the right thing by not telling me about it, because we would not have bought the house. I know that they wouldn't have bought the house had we have known. And that's part of knowing what's a material fact or not, because it could be to the detriment of your party that you go and tell. Let me bring up another thing. Sorry. Excuse me. What about selling a house as is? House is sold as is. Now, in North Carolina, what are you laughing at?
I thought they were all sold as is.
They're all sold as is. That's right. Everything is sold as is.
With it, but I really didn't think that.
Every house is sold as is. So there are agents, right? You all know, you go and see a house, you put it in the general remarks, home sold as is. Now, what in Hades does that mean? Tim, what do you think when you see that?
I think, go easy on the due diligence repair request, because we're going to be...
Because we ain't going to do it. We ain't even going to talk about it. Right. So do you think it's a positive... Jess, what do you think? Positive or negative if someone says, we're going to sell this house as is?
Personally, I would think it's positive so that I can make the repairs that I want to make to the house.
And that's why we don't have you out there representing buyers. And so then why, Tim?
Comments are blowing up.
Why, Tim, is it? What are some of the comments? What are people saying?
Oh, let's see.
It's negative. Okay, all right. So Colleen said, you know, that people are saying it's negative. Yes, it would come across as a negative connotation on it, except for the millennial generation, maybe not. And so now, you right? Did we get her on camera? Okay. So just so is that it's a negative. So if we're going to put that out there on it, and here's one of the things I would say, because I don't care what it's going to come down to price. And one of the reasons why I caution people to put in there as is because you never know exactly, given what circumstance of an offer, what a seller is going to do. And if you're going to put as is, and as Colleen said, most of you guys are commenting it's a negative. If you're going to put as is in there, then you better have the permission of the seller to put as in there, because you are now putting them at a disadvantage when it comes to buying the purchasing pool out there. Okay, are we all good? We're all good with that? The next one on there is sex offenders. Sex offenders are not, the state of North Carolina has determined that not to be material fact. A couple reasons for that is, one, the information is not accurate on it, and you don't want to necessarily say, yeah, that's a sex offender living right there, when they're not the sex offender. They've moved on. Okay? So sex offenders are not on there, as well as HIV and AIDS individuals on that. All right. Let's move on. We're going on to page 31. I want to go, let's see. Okay, in the middle it says, page 31, what should the broker do to prepare for the listing on it? Just a couple things. I just want to say research, interview the owner. Interviewing the owner means, hey, someone goes around and says, look at my house. I just upgraded the kitchen in here. We did full renovations of the bathrooms over here. And so we say, okay, fine, that's great. What are some of the questions then we got to follow up with? Tim, if someone's renovated the bathrooms, someone's renovated the kitchens, what are the follow-ups we are required to then do?
Investigate, follow up with some additional questions.
Like what? What would be the first thing we'd start to think about?
So remind me again, on the buyer side or seller side?
On either side. Either side. If you're listing a house, just renovated this kitchen. We just spent $52,000 renovating this kitchen. What's one of the follow-ups we got to make sure happened? Stumped it. Permits. We got to go and make sure that they pulled the permits on the properties.
I was thinking permits for new construction, not necessarily replacement as is, but even some of those have permits.
Well, yeah, right. So we're getting ready to do our own construction upgrades as well in both bathrooms and in the kitchen. We've got to get building. We're moving some walls around, so we got to get building, plumbing, electrical, in general on it.
Oh, and somebody chimed in. Yeah, some great responses here. Permits, licensed contractors. What kind of team did you have? And to what degree of quality was it done?
Perfect.
Is there a punch list?
Good comments, guys. Good. Perfect. We're all on the same page then. Making sure that we find out that information and trying to get receipts and stuff as well on it. And what if they didn't pull permits? Can you still sell the property?
Yes, and I can speak to this on a personal level.
Go ahead. Tell everybody.
Yeah, so you can sell it as, I bought a home that had some unpermitted space. And when I bought the home 14 years ago, it didn't matter to me. If I wanted to sell the house now, it's much more important to get that dollar for dollar comp number that I get that permit. And I got to either be my own GC or have somebody kind of walk me through that, another contractor or something, to take those steps. And unpermitted space, just generally speaking, isn't going to get you, dollar for dollar. In
your case too, didn't you have to? Did you get someone else to measure the house to make sure about the space?
I did. As a peer review, I wanted somebody else to measure everything, and before I went down that road.
And didn't they actually measure more than you had thought?
It was a little higher than mine.
Yeah, awesome. Great, guys, great. The other bullet point in that middle was about evaluating red flags. Red flags was kind of the thing, as I was alluding to. If you're looking up and you see, stained ceiling tiles, you need to investigate that. What does that mean? Well, ask the owner first. Ask them, hey, what's up with that? And they're just like, well, we started out wanting to paint the ceiling in a bronze tone, changed our mind. Well, you know what? You probably ought to go look in the ceiling and just go up in the attic, shine a flashlight, look and see if you see, a sieve of water flying down through the roof, or maybe it's all dry and gone, right? Like they say. The next thing says, what I want is where it says, what is a red flag? And what I'm going to highlight is the broker has a duty to investigate any issue or fact that could mean a potential problem with the property. Could mean a potential property in it, which just means you got to ask questions. That's part of the job, both on the buyer side and the seller side. Just investigate. Hey, we're getting ready to, and you've heard it, it's the largest purchase ever that they're going to do, and we're moving so fast on it, right? $500,000 spent. It's not like a candy bar. They're not just flipping out a buck for a candy bar now. We're looking at $500,000 plus, whatever we're looking at. It's a huge amount of money. We just need to make sure that we're investigating it so we can give them the best advice. Down below, the last paragraph, here's another little sentence that says, a broker must conduct more research and use due diligence to determine the severity of that red flag. Okay, they're already telling you what you got to do. If you go on the next page of 32, top of 32 has in the middle there, talks about unpermitted spaces and miscalculations of square footage. Okay guys, miscalculations of square footage. This shouldn't happen, miscalculations of square footage. Why? Because you're competent in doing it, or you're going to hire someone that's competent in doing it. One of the things you can't, have you guys gone on MLS and you've seen where people said, square footage to be verified by buyer. Square footage to be verified, square footage per tax records. Y'all, that's just the easiest, quickest way for you to get locked up. Because number one, 17 different times in post-licensing and pre-licensing says never go with the tax records, period, on it. The next thing is, y'all, you can't like wave around what wave off your responsibility as a full broker. As a full broker, let me take that back. As a broker, even if you wanted to go limited service, if you're going to put in square footage, and this is a big issue for any of those out there that are practicing service, you're still responsible for all that information, material facts that are out there. So if you're going to put out there 3,200 square feet, you needed to measure that 3,200 or hired someone to do it. You can't right away your obligation to measure that house. You have that duty to go ahead and measure it on it. And it is everyone's. You cannot say, if it's up to buyer, if you care about square footage, go ahead and measure it yourself. No, that is your duty as a listing agent to do it. Okay? You can't wave that off. Tim?
So what if we happen to be, what if we've got some folks that are from down at the beach area and square footage maybe isn't as critical as it is here in the Raleigh market where we're sitting? Does that change anything? Because they're looking at
That's a great.
bedrooms.
Yeah, that's a great point. So there's a range of square footage. So in Raleigh, you have to have square footage down to the foot. You go, I believe, Charlotte folks, you can probably correct me, please. Send it to Tim, update me on this. But I've heard down in the Charlotte area, you can actually put square footage in a range, like 1,400 to 1,600. You go out to the coast folks, correct it, send stuff to Tim. But I've heard over at the coast, you don't have to put footage out at the coast. So if you don't, which is cool, like if you don't or you have to put it in the range, the key is if you're going to put that information out, it has to be accurate on it. And you can't say, hey, if you care about it, you do it, and then fill in a number or check a box, check in a box range, put the total number in. If you are going to enter it, you got to enter it as far as it being accurate. So you got to investigate that. So cool. As you guys are sending Tim these updates of your MLSs, we'll talk about it just before the next break and stuff. So remind me, Tim, where it differs out on the coast. Okay. We go on to page 33. Bottom of page 33, let me just put down on the bottom, I want to highlight down to you, this is the part that I mentioned earlier. It says a buyer's agent may rely on a listing agent's assertions regarding a property. However, the buyer's agent is still responsible for following up on any red flag issues. Let's see. You go, let's see, I'm trying to think if there's anything else on here that I want to talk about. We've got a client. And perfect, we are done. Woo, we're done with that section. Let me get through these slides. We're going to move on to home inspections, guys. So we are doing great. Don't look at your screen as I'm going through every one of these things. Stay with me, stay with me, stay with me. Yes, Jess.
Tom has a question.
What's Tom say?
Tom, please do not unmute yourself. Keep yourself on mute. I'm looking for the chat to make sure that you are asking questions. I'll stop them if they move on before you're ready, but keep yourself on mute, please. Thank you.
What's Tom's question? Nope, we don't know? Okay. All right, well, if he asks it, that's fine. Well, and guys, thanks for staying unmuted on here. We've got 100 people on here. We can't afford to have everyone speaking at the same time or whatever. So please send your questions to Tim or to Jess if you are, and I'll be more than happy to answer it. Okay. Yep, and a good point is that I can't get to all questions right away, but please send your questions through the chat. That's awesome. Thanks, guys, for helping us out here. All right, so we're on the home inspections. Tim, Jess, Colin, just let me know whatever that question might be. All right, so let's go on. We're going to start off, guys, again with some discussion stuff on here. So we've got Sue. It says, Sue has found a house that she loves and wants to close quickly. Tom is Sue's agent on this and advises her to hire a home inspector on it, but she believes that the home is in fine condition and doesn't want to hire a home inspector. The question is Sue required to hire a home inspector? And I think we'll probably all agree, without sending anything into Tim, the answer would be no. She's not on that. And I'm about to get to that question, the other question, in a sec from the student. Let me just go on to number 2 here. It says, Amy is a buyer's agent. She's assisting Luke in the purchase of the home, and Amy advises Luke to hire a home inspector to determine the condition on it. It said Luke wants to have his friend John, who does some light carpentry work, inspect the home. Okay? Question is, how should Amy advise Luke? And what I would ask you guys, actually that's one of the questions, but I would actually ask, and you can send with just thumbs up or thumbs down to Tim, is it okay for Luke to have a friend Justin inspect a home? Is that okay? Got 10 seconds, Tim, just let me know. People, thumbs up or thumbs down. Can Luke have his friend John inspect the home? Yeah, perfect. Yeah, good, guys. Yep, absolutely. You can have it. That's just a warning shout out to the listing agents out there. You know, we don't get to determine who the buyer wants to have inspect the home on that. We have to make it readily available to them. Do we have a question that I need to get to?
Tom asked a question that I'm not sure. I want to follow up to see if I'm not sure that I'm clear. It had to do with the license the square footage for a 360 tour, and if you could do that in lieu of.
Maybe we can get it after the break.
Yeah, we'll look at it after the break. We got a break. Tom, just maybe you can chat with one of the other folks, and we'll get that question for you. I'd be more than happy to answer for you. Okay, we're moving on to here. Terminology. We talked about home inspection, the home inspection report. And this is one of the things. And I don't know. I'm taking a risk here because I don't know if any there are home inspectors as well as real estate agents on it. But I'm going to tell you one of the things that chaps me right now, I kind of said it earlier, is I get that summary report. The summary report that has all the items in the full report, just deleting some of the language on it or the pictures. And so on that summary report, it's got things like, the cracked faceplate, the dripping water faucet, all these other things that are on there. And I got to explain how some of these things aren't important. And this is where I'd love to be able to have a live conversation with you all on it. But let me just, because it's a great time for you all to vent, because I know a lot of you are going through the same thing, and when it comes to the due diligence on it. And so please, in lieu of us being able to go face to face on it, send your comments and stuff to Tim. Just send your comments. Tim will air some of these comments that are coming from you guys on it, because it's going to be kind of an interesting topic for us. So you got a list of 30 different items on the home inspection report, and let's talk about due diligence on it. Due diligence versus earnest money. I think we all know what the term is, the differences of the term on it. But earnest money, right? Kind of good faith. Good faith. But I'm going to challenge you to think otherwise on earnest money, because I don't interpret earnest money. This is me personally. This isn't North Carolina Real Estate Commission sanctioned, but I don't think earnest money is of good faith. What I think is good faith is going to be due diligence. If you want to buy a house, you're going to put money up on the table because we're going to take it off the market. Now I know some of you are going to be like, well, Steve, it doesn't make sense for the buyer to put a whole lot of money up on the table if they're not going to buy it. Well, as a seller, I get it, but if I'm going to take my house on the market, you're going to have to put money out on the table. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to earnest money, on the contract, on the offer to purchase contract, the earnest money says, if a buyer, pay attention to what I'm asking right now, if a buyer backs out during the due diligence period, because I'm going to want you to answer this, yes or no. If a buyer backs out during the due diligence period, do they get their money back? Yes or no? Send it to Tim.
We got a lot of superstars here getting it right. No. A lot of no's.
Well, so the answer is not necessarily. Because even though it says in the offer to purchase that they're entitled to that money, it doesn't mean that they're going to get it back. I mean, they might have to fight for that money. Meaning, when it comes to earnest money, remember, in order to release earnest money, it takes both parties to sign for the releasing of that earnest money. So you've got to have, and what if the seller says no? If the seller says, I'm not going to sign it, how's the buyer going to get the money back? What do they got to do, Tim? Eventually,
Courts?
go to the court.
Avail
They're going to have to sue. They're going to have to sue for the money. Court. Now, sure, you can say, well, Steve, that doesn't happen that often. Well, the key is, number one is you cannot tell someone they're going to get their money back. Because if they don't get their money back, guess who's going to be writing that check? The second thing is, it's not true. And you have to explain earnest money that way. You have to explain earnest money that, hey, here's how it works.
Hold
You
on,
know?
Steve.
Yeah.
Were you implying that a real estate agent would have to write an earnest money check back?
I'm going to say someone's going to be responsible.
Somebody pay them.
And the first go-to is going to be the firm. And I can guarantee you that BIC, the first person they're going to go to is the real estate agent. And so, anyway, so that's earnest money. So let's go to due diligence on it. Due diligence and the inspection request. You all know the due diligence repair request document, right? Is everyone familiar with that? Yes, I'm just going to assume everyone's familiar with due diligence repair request. All right, so let's go. This is my favorite little thing to talk about. So you go in a due diligence repair request. And I know some of you, I know this is going to get some of you. So you get the due diligence repair request, and you know what I'm talking about. They were going to refer it to the inspection report and everything like that. And so they get the due diligence repair request. And so you write up diligence repair request. You know, sometimes they want to become, they want to get their inner attorney out of them. And they write things like, per advantage inspection report done on the 31st of March 2020, 10 a.m. The following summary report attached detailing items 1 through 39, see list below. And so then they start listing up. Oh, you're going to love this, right? You're going to love this. Then they start listing down below. And start going, all right, y'all know this, Roman numeral 1. They got Roman numeral 1 there. And they got, items number 2, 4, 6, 8, who do we appreciate? And then they got, 4, Roman numeral 5 on there, 1, 3, 4. You all know what I'm talking about? And so they have, they've got this sitting up there. And what does this refer to? Tim, what do they got? What are they referring it to?
Well, you interpret that. They're referring to items off the inspection report that they want completed.
Right, you all got the inspection report. You know, the one that your client just said, yeah, go ahead and send them an inspection report. And you said, you gave the whole legal, your inner attorney said, see blah, blah, blah. And you list off item Roman numeral 1, right? Because that's more important, Roman numeral 1. And then the subgroups 2, 4, 6, 8. You went through. And so you, as the buyer's agent, like, yeah, Steve, that's what I want to do. I wanted to go ahead and put that down, and I'm just referencing what that inspection report is.
I smell a lazy agent.
Well, you're honest. You're onto something, hound dog. And so then you want the listing agent to then go into the report and look at Roman numeral 1, number 2. Number 2, and it's kitchen sink, leaking faucet. And then it'll say something like, seek further evaluation from a licensed plumber. Does it ever say, Tim, I haven't read a report yet, probably in 5 years, where an inspector actually says how to repair it. Have you?
No, I've never seen anything where it says take licensed plumber to remove O-ring, reset, purge air, replace.
Exactly. No inspectors going out there, right? They don't, right? A liability issue or whatever for them. So no, it's always further evaluate. And for some reason, there's going to be a licensee. There's got to be a license for everybody, right? Crack concrete, seek licensed professional. You know, licensed concrete thing you got to get to pour concrete. Is there such a? There's not. So here it is. They put this on here and they say reference it, and you're having them reference something that actually doesn't have a solution to. Do we have a question? Anyone got a question? Bueller?
Laura has a question.
Laura? What's Laura got? Interrupting my flow. Come on, girl. Come on.
Just asking if you put the item number in the description and ask for the repair, is that okay?
So you already, see, Laura's already ahead of it. She already knows what's where I'm going with this. So she's on it. Thanks, Laura. Thanks for the question on this. So just repair it. Well, what are you asking to be repaired? Laura, what is it that you're asking? You're just saying reference number 2, and thanks, Laura. Reference number 2, and repair it. Well, it says it's a leaking thing. So let's just take it to common sense, y'all. You're in business together. So is the buyer wants the most expensive thing done, and the seller wants the least expensive thing done. That's just habit. That's not, in every particular case. So what's the seller going to do? What if the seller said, fine, I'm just going to shut off the water? Did they just repair that? What do you think, Tim?
A little too much gray in there for me.
That's a little too much.
I'm gonna please.
And what if the buyer said, well, hold it. That leaking O-ring, I expected them to put in an entire new faucet system in there for another $225. Laura, that's where this gray area that we're talking about happens with this particular repair request. And why this is problematic. Someone signs off on this. I'm going to tell you, Laura and folks, I'll have my seller sign off on this. I'm like, all right, we'll do it. And then you're going to come to closing. You're going to come in. You're going to do your walkthrough and your closing. And you're going to say, Steve, why is all this stuff not done? And I'm going to be like, what did we have done? What didn't we do? And you're going to be like, Steve, I referenced Roman numeral 4, number 1. I'm going to say, so we referenced it. We further evaluated it, and we said nothing needs to be done. Next, we go down to Roman numeral 4, 3. We reevaluated and said nothing's got to be done. So did we, Tim, what do you think? Did we take care of our obligation?
Well, to the letter, yeah, we sure did.
And so this is where it becomes problematic, guys, on it. And one of the reasons why, at least with Home Coach, that I'm always talking about going down and referencing the money. That if we can avoid going to a due diligence repair request, I'm going to show you something that's going to blow my mind away in a second on here. But why we should try and work out dollars. Much simpler for us to be able to go and say, let's negotiate $3,000 for all these repairs, $3,500 versus going through this. Because this does not necessarily solve all the issues on it. And it makes you like an attorney in trying to draft things. And I'm going to flip through to page 45. And this is one of the things, guys, in this entire book that I think should send out a huge warning flag as an agent to you. I already told you things about the Real Estate Commission where they want to talk in some kind of vague terms, right? Kind of because, they just want to be able to have an open tent to everybody that's out there in order to scoop you up if they need be. So then we've got down to the bottom of page 45. I want you to read this. Look at this. It talks about, for example, specific language should be used as to which repairs are requested and who will complete the repairs. All right, that sounds pretty good. All right, I can do this. I want you to look at this last line. Brokers are also encouraged to seek the advice of an attorney if needed when completing a repair agreement request. Y'all, no one is playing around. If you want to think about complaints being up, if the buyer was expecting A and the seller was expecting Z, we're going to have a problem. And someone is going to lose. And worse, both are going to lose. You're going to have a buyer who's pissed off, you're going to have a seller who's pissed off, and when, at the end of the day, they're going to fill out a complaint and say to you, you stink. You didn't represent me well. Or what? You know what? I want you to pay for the repairs. I want you to take care of this. You said it would be done. That seller didn't do it. If I can't hold that seller accountable to it, if I contact an attorney as a principal, and the attorney says you ain't got nothing, you ain't got nothing to go sue them on, then I'm going to come to you, the firm, I'm going to come to you, the agent, but someone is going to repair the way you told me it was going to be done. And here's the warning shot, y'all. That's what's in this book. Every year the commission's putting this out, and it's a warning shot across your bow. This thing here, I think, is one of the most important things in this book, as I said, and I want to repeat it one more time. Brokers are also encouraged to seek the advice of an attorney if needed when completing a repair request agreement. They are saying, y'all, if you want to go this route, you better get someone else to think about writing that up. Don't think of yourself and your inner attorney and bringing that out of you. Go seek the advice of a professional at that. And at the end of the day, you're all like, what, Steve? I'm not going to go and get an attorney. I'm not going to, how much am I going to pay for the attorney? Is the buyer going to pay for the attorney? That's a good question. It's a valid question to think about. It's something you're going to have to employ into your business model. It's a new level where we're going with if you want to go this route. And like the thing that's encouraging you to consider at least is consider about using the dollars. It's always cleaner, right? If we can agree, and yeah, there's going to be some negotiating back and forth. There, my estimate says 3,000, my estimate says 2,000. Okay, right. But when you agree to it, right, then you go to an amendment to contract, and you simply say, okay, maybe it's going to be the $3,000, allowing that the lender approves it. $3,000 in closing costs. Maybe it's a reduction in price, but at least then it's dollars. That's all it is. It's done. We don't have to have any gray matter, as Tim, you were relating to. Yeah, Jess, there's a question?
Kelly asked, can we ask the closing attorneys to handle the review?
Sure, it's right. So great question, Kelly. Is that, yeah, of course, ask any of the attorney. Right, you can ask an attorney, ask someone else if they'll do it. Now, I'm not the closing attorneys. I can't speak on behalf of it. Doesn't mean that they have to do it on it. They might have a charge to do it on it. But I think what I'm at least want you to do from this point today forward is investigate how your company wants to move forward with this particular, what's being suggested here. And then also find out venues for yourself. Call and talk to your closing attorney. Ask them how they want to handle this particular venue. If you want to do this route, if this is the route that you want to do that. Since I cut you a little short on time last time, we're going to take a break right now, and we'll come back around for our last hour at 12 o'clock. I'm all excited. Am I the most excited one? I'm as excited as you all. Thank you.